February 9th, 1971. Los Angeles is still asleep when the ground explodes with more force than anyone imagined possible. In less than 12 seconds, a hospital collapses, freeways shatter, and entire neighborhoods are thrown into chaos. It was supposed to be just another morning, but this would become the earthquake that broke Los Angeles. As darkness swallows the city and sirens start to fail, the true scale of vulnerability is only beginning to surface. How did a single quake expose disasters hiding in plain sight and change the fate of millions forever? The answer starts in the final seconds before dawn. At 6 a.m., the San Fernando Fault snaps, awake beneath the foothills north of Los Angeles. No warning, just a jolt that rips across the valley faster than anyone can process. Beds bounce, windows explode, and the floor heaves under sleeping families. In Sylmar, peak ground acceleration rockets passed 0.6 G, one of the strongest ever recorded in the United States. The shaking is violent, relentless, a 12-second assault that tears buildings apart before most people even open their eyes. Power lines topple, alarms blare, and somewhere in the distance, concrete groans as freeways begin to buckle. For a moment, the only thing holding the city together is darkness. Then, just as suddenly, the lights vanish. Los Angeles plunges into blackout, leaving millions stranded in a world that has changed in less than a minute. Olive View Medical Center, only months old and built to modern standards, loses its 5-story wing in seconds. Concrete columns snap. Floors collapse one onto another, and stairwells crumble into heaps of dust and rebar. In the ICU, charge nurse Billy Griggs faces a nightmare. No lights, alarms blaring, the building groaning around her. With the main exits blocked, Griggs and her team improvise, dragging patients on sheets and mattresses through pitch-black corridors. Neonatal nurses scoop up fragile infants, cradling them as ceiling tiles crash down. Outside, a freezing wind cuts across the parking lot, where the most vulnerable are laid out on the cold ground, wrapped in blankets and hospital gowns. In the chaos, Griggs's voice cuts through the panic, guiding staff and patients to safety. Survivors later say her calm and quick decisions saved dozens of lives that morning, even as the hospital itself was lost. At the I-5 and State Route 14 interchange, reinforced concrete columns, thought to be unbreakable, snap like sticks. The northbound deck swings down, and in the chaos, a big rig driven by William Stover plunges off the broken edge. His truck lands upside down, crumpled in a tangle of steel and concrete. Stover is alive somehow, but trapped beneath the wreckage, his cab wedged between slabs that could shift at any moment. Rescue crews scramble across the unstable debris, every step a risk, as aftershocks ripple through the concrete. Firefighters and paramedics work by hand, crawling under the collapsed deck with jacks and cables, forced to halt more than once as tremors threaten a second collapse. 2 men in another vehicle are lost at the same site. The rescue of Stover becomes a desperate race against time and the next shockwave. A reminder that even the newest freeways can fail when the ground decides to move. Inside the city's emergency dispatch centers, chaos takes on a different shape. Radio frequencies jam within minutes, as hundreds of patrol cars and fire units all try to report in at once. LAPD and LAFD dispatchers, trained for busy nights, find themselves overwhelmed by a flood of calls, duplicate reports, conflicting addresses, desperate requests for backup. The system, built for routine emergencies, can't keep up with thousands of simultaneous voices. Official logs from that morning describe radio channels so saturated that entire crews are left waiting for instructions that never arrive. Ambulances are sent to the same site by different dispatchers, while other critical calls go unanswered. In the worst moments, supervisors abandon their radios and send runners, officers on foot, between command posts and field teams, trying to pass along orders by hand. Even as rescue crews dig through rubble on the streets, the backbone of coordination is paralyzed, exposing a flaw that no siren or training drill could fix. In Sacramento, lawmakers gather in hearing rooms, still haunted by the stories of collapsed hospitals and shattered neighborhoods. Survivors and nurses from Sylmar testify about what they saw. Patients trapped by falling walls, families left without answers. Within a year, California passes the Alquist-Priolo Act, signed in 1972, drawing new fault zone maps and banning new schools and hospitals from being built directly atop active faults. Retrofits become mandatory for critical facilities, and any new project near a mapped fault must undergo detailed geologic study. The law is blunt, a direct response to the failures exposed by the quake and the voices that demanded never again. Congressional hearings in Washington brought seismologists and engineers to testify, pushing earthquake safety onto the national agenda. In 1977, the National Earthquake Hazards Reduction Act created a federal program for hazard mapping, building standards, and public drills. Annual preparedness campaigns and local memorials keep the memory alive, shaping a culture of vigilance from Los Angeles to every quake-prone city. At 6 a.m. on February 9, 1971, a 6.6 magnitude earthquake struck the San Fernando Valley, collapsing hospitals and crippling freeways in less than 12 seconds. Official reports confirm at least 58 deaths and over $500 million in damage, with the failures at Olive View Medical Center and the I-5/R14 interchange, exposing deep flaws in Los Angeles's infrastructure and emergency plans. Despite thousands of pages of engineering studies and reforms, some response decisions and communications breakdowns remain unaccounted for in public records. In direct response, California passed the Alquist-Priolo Act in 1972, and by 1977, Congress created the National Earthquake Hazards Reduction Act. Today, every major hospital and school in the region stands on stricter codes, but the complete record of that morning's institutional failures has yet to be fully disclosed. The evidence shows that the 1971 San Fernando earthquake did more than break buildings. It reshaped how a city prepares for the next disaster.